We're driving around London, visiting some of the locations of the dramatic scenes in Edge of Eternity. I don't really have to research these locations, not like Moscow or Berlin, Alabama. These are places that I've been familiar with for the last 50 years. I live in London, places I went when I was a teenager and that I'm still familiar with. And love, because this is still the most exciting city in the world to me. It's full of music and culture and politics. I would not live anywhere else. The action of Edge of Eternity takes place in Moscow, Berlin, and Washington, but also in London. Throughout the Century Trilogy, decisions are taken in the building behind me that affect the entire rest of the world. One of the most important characters in the trilogy is Ethel. She starts off as a housemaid in South Wales. She becomes a suffragette, she becomes a member of Parliament, and by the end of the trilogy, she is in the House of Lords.
I've been involved in politics for a long time, and for 13 years, Barbara, my wife, was a member of Parliament. So I've spent a lot of time in the Palace of Westminster. I've walked all around those corridors. I know the debating chambers, the lobbies, and so it's very easy for me to set scenes in all these different locations in the palace. I was born in 1949, almost in the middle of the 20th century. So everything about my life was formed by the politics of the first half of the 20th century. I was born into it.
This is Grosvenor Square, and we're standing outside the American Embassy. In the 60s, during the Vietnam War, thousands of people marched around this square to protest against the war. But this is special to me because I was here. When I was 13, the cultural world seemed to turn upside down. Suddenly, there were songs on the radio like you'd never heard before. Like She Loves You, I Want to Hold Your Hand. Suddenly, you could grow your hair long even if you were a boy. And you could also comb it forward and over your ears. And you could wear completely different clothes. Clothes that your father wouldn't be seen dead in. There was that feeling that you get at a moment of revolution that you could do anything. In Edge of Eternity, the characters are involved in the cultural explosion that happened here in London in the 1960s. One wants to be an actress, one wants to be a pop star, one wants to be a hotshot journalist, and they're all in the heart of London. This is the heart of swinging London. This is Carnaby Street. Cultural explosion was Beatlemania. It was miniskirts, hipster trousers, it was clubs, it was drugs. Like some of the characters in Edge of Eternity, I was a teenager in swinging London, and I had a guitar. It has been a source of pleasure to me all my life, and continues to be. I still play in bands, performing to entertain my friends and at parties and for my own pleasure. Right now I'm in a band called Damn Right I Got the Blues, which is a straight 5-person rock and blues band. I play bass guitar, we play blues and rock. We rehearse every Monday night in a soundproof studio, and that's the pleasure of it. It's just going to the studio and playing the guitar, playing the music with people I like. Try again.
Dave Williams, who is the son of Daisy and Lloyd and the grandson of Eth, he's a young teenager in London, and he doesn't want to be in politics. He's not interested. He wants to be a rock star. He's got a guitar, he sings nicely, and he's looking for that big break. My friend Peter Asher had told me a story from his own life. He, like Dave Williams, had a guitar and played and sang and was looking for a big break. And he had a piece of luck. His sister was dating Paul McCartney, and Paul McCartney gave him a song, and it was a worldwide #1 hit. I spoke to Peter, told him what I had in mind in the book, and he said, well, that's a terrific ring of truth about that story. I said, do you mind if I sort of pinch a bit of your life? And he said, no, not at all.
Please lock me away and don't allow the day here inside where I hide with my loneliness.
So, this evening is One Without Love by Peter and Ken. Lock me away. don't allow the day here inside where I hide naked with my loneliness. I don't care what they say, I won't stay in a world without love. I don't care what they say, I won't stay in a world without love.
When I embarked on this project, nobody had ever tried to write the story of an entire century in the form of 3 long novels. That's never been done before, and I didn't know if it could be done. I mean, I thought it could be done, I hoped it could be done, and I thought if anybody could do it, I could. I was quite alive to the possibility that at some point I might realize that I had taken on an impossible task and I might have to change my mind, abandon it, change it into something else. I can't count the number of history books that I've read in the last 7 years. Some good, many bad. I have scoured them, always looking for the dramatic turning point. That moment in history when forces are balanced and I can put 2 characters on stage who represent different possibilities for the future, and I can have them argue or try to outwit one another, sometimes have a physical fight, sometimes try to kill one another. But I'm looking in the history books for a reason for that conflict that is real and relates to the real world. With most authors, I think we're sort of always thinking about the story. We are people who live a lot in our imaginations. If you want to write popular literature, you have to be on it all the time. You know, it's not a matter of sitting back and writing what comes into your head. It's a matter of pushing the story forward in a way that's exciting and engaging. P.G. Wodehouse wrote to one of his friends who was a somewhat less successful author. He said, "Your books are all about men struggling with fate and life, and what the public want is stories about men struggling with pirates and octopuses." And it's an exaggeration in a typical Wodehouse way, but it's true.